Hi, I'm Christopher Smith and I'm being interviewed here for CloneWeb.
Thank you. So, first question, how did the project start?
Well, originally the film was going to be directed by Jeffrey Sachs, another director, the guy who did White Noise, the film White Noise. And he pulled out of the film to go and do another movie, and so suddenly this film was available. They contacted me and said, would you like to do the film? And I read the script, and I really liked the script, but I wanted to change what I felt to be the way the other director had steered it towards the supernatural. I wanted to try and make it feel more real and play it as a horror movie, but as a horror movie in the real world. So what would a witch be like in the real world, and what would that person be? And no witch has ever been burned for being guilty of being a witch. All witches are innocent, and in this case, she's not innocent, but yet she's also not a witch. So it just attracted me to that world, yeah.
Yeah, one very interesting thing in the film is the opposition between paganism and atheism, skepticism,
yeah,
and religion. But you never impose an answer to the audience.
I feel that I want there to be the bad side, if you like, is the way religion is hijacked and exploited by people. Whichever religion, the actual religions themselves are peaceful. The way the religion is used can be violent if in the wrong hands. And so, yeah, I thought what I like about the movie a great deal is that when our men travel to the village, we're told the village is going to have monsters, and we're told it's going to be this, and they're told all the scary things. But when we get there, we find a peaceful village, and we start to think that actually maybe our men are the bad guys, and we're the bad. So we start to question whether we're on the side of the good guys, and so that relationship goes back and forth, and I like that. You're not sure. There's no one's the good guy. The bad guy is fundamentalism.
Yes, there is a continuous questioning during the film. We never know who are the bad guys and all. Talking about the bad guys or the good guys, can we talk a bit about the actors? How did you choose Sean Ben?
Well, I think that everybody in the film, and I've made movies where I don't feel this. I don't feel that. Casting, how do I explain this? Casting is the most important thing. If you get the casting wrong, however well you direct the film, if it's not cast properly, it won't work. And I think what we did is the casting director was fantastic. We found Eddie Redmayne, who is a brilliant actor, and he's the guy who's who plays the monk. Not only a brilliant actor, but a lovely person to embody that role. He has a kind of Christ-like quality. He looks a little bit like Jim Caviezel. He's got that godly look, and yet as a person he's also someone who's extremely a lovely guy. So it was great for me because we shot the film in order, so a lot of the time me and Eddie are having to think up how we're going to take his character and what we're going to do, and it's quite frustrating for an actor to not have everything laid out for him, and we were very much thinking a lot of it up on the spot. So Eddie was great, and then Sean, again, when I had the chance of Sean Bean being in the movie, the answer was immediately yes. So whoops, I'll do it, sorry. It's okay. Sorry, we're having a little drink break.
No problem.
So, Sean was attached to the film before I got involved, and he loved the idea of this character who is a tortured fundamentalist, and he's tortured because he blindly follows God with love, and not blindly, he follows him with utter conviction. And the movie starts to question the validity of not that God, not his God, but certainly the validity of the God in the village. So we start to see a miracle performed by this new God, if you like, the Chris Van Houten character. And our character doesn't believe that. Sean doesn't believe that, but he hasn't seen it. Whereas our young monk, who does believe in miracles, has seen a miracle and believes that what he's seen is a miracle of the devil. So Sean loved that conflict in his character. At the end, you think Sean's the bad guy at the beginning. And there's a scene when he cuts the witch's throat. And then in the next scene, he explains why he did it. And you go, okay, I understand why he's done that. And he's actually quite reasonable. And I think in the movie, you think Sean's the bad guy, but by the end, he's the good guy. in his own way, he's a troubled character, but he's a good guy. So yeah, I can talk all day. I think, and the final piece, I guess, is Carice Van Houten, who plays the witch. I didn't want someone to be witchy in the sense that, you know, dark makeup, and, you know, black fingernails, black cat. I didn't want it to be like that, but I wanted it to be someone. If you're a leader, then you're a charismatic person, and I think Carice has got this beautiful face. Beautiful in the sense that she's obviously a very good-looking woman, but she has two sides to her face. She has a soft little girl, and she also has this angular, strange kind of face that looks a bit like Garbo or Dietrich or something. She's got that kind of old-fashioned face. So I think that when you first meet her, you think she's really sweet, and by the end, she becomes this really nasty character.
Yes, she made me feel ill at ease, and at the same time I was very interested in her character.
Yeah.
So let's talk about the music. We noticed that there was some kind of a continuous, musical score. There were very few moments where there was total silence, and it creates some kind of
atmosphere.
Yes, spellbinding atmosphere. How did you work with the music composer?
Do you think there was a lot of music?
Not music, but still there was a.
There's always
a note,
kind of drone, notes and stuff. Well, it's tricky because part of me wants to have no music in a film, and but when you do the musical score, and I love Christian Henson who did the music. He's a great composer, but they'll give you lots of stuff, and then you have to take the stuff out and thin it out. And I think that I think that you make decisions, and I'm very proud of the decisions that we made on the film, and because you don't want to be telling the audience what to feel the whole time. So there's one sequence in the movie where after he's killed his girlfriend in the hut, there was a big musical score there that we took out, and instead he just walks down silently. All the things are dripping, and I think that the places where you have music, and then the areas directly after where there was no music, I've always liked to drop music out because you suddenly get pulled in more. And so he tried to give me a score that would have a bit of a Holocaust feel, if you like. I wanted it to feel like a tragedy, that you're in this world, not using necessarily medieval music, but using a score that evokes, the Second World War or the Holocaust, this kind of feeling, a bit like Schindler's List. We tried to get that kind of approach, I think.
Okay, to get back on Sean's character, his death scene, is very, very dramatic. Was he? Did he agree right from the start to die at the end of the film?
Well, again, in the original story, before I changed it, he did die, and he ended up in hell, in the flames of hell. And
it was Sean.
It was Sean, and Sean's actually dead, but in hell. And the film had a dream quality, and it was like, I imagine that it's a strange ending. I don't want to talk about an old script that doesn't exist anymore, but Sean's character died, and so when I made the film much more realistic and made it in the real world, I knew that Sean's already signed up to dying, which I thought was great, because the audience isn't expecting him to die. We shouldn't really talk about it too much, give the plot away, but Sean's not expecting. So actually what I did was I sent Sean the script, and we used to put Sean in the cage, and he was killed in the cage. And Sean felt that it would be hard to act that in a dramatic way. And so he said, is there another way I could die? So I tried to think up the most horrible way he could die. And I felt like we made it that he lost his horses, and then later on in the movie he's pulled apart by horses. And so, and Sean really liked it. So you don't expect it. You kind of, because what happens in the movie is, and this was all the stuff we thought up on the day, because the film was made in such a mad environment where we were writing the script and directing at the same time, and more changes to the script, and the story was growing as we were making it. And there's a scene in the movie where the guys start to escape from the cages. The man's being pulled apart. The men escape, and just in time they save him. It doesn't happen, but you expect it to, so it's more of a shock, I think.
Did you take any inspiration from other medieval time movies?
I think there's a number of films that I was inspired by. The Name of the Rose was one. Seventh Seal by Bergman. I was a big fan of that film. I love that movie. So all of the stuff like the flagellants and all that all came from that film. Werner Herzog's Aguirre, Wrath of God was another influence. And then I was aware of the fact that people would make comparisons to Witchfinder General and to The Wicker Man, but these weren't stylistic, and The Wicker Man had no bearing on me stylistically. I knew that the film had a similar tone to Witchfinder General, because I knew that certainly the end of the movie has this idea of how does someone become a witch hunter, and what story justifies them becoming so pathologically cruel. And I think the story is, in a way, how do you become a witch? You know, what is this guy's journey to become this man at the end? So those were the films I really liked. I also like The Devils by Ken Russell. That's another movie that was an influence.
Okay. Did you rewrite the script all by yourself?
No, I did. You know, creatively I was very much involved. I always am. So even though I didn't take a writing credit, the script, the writer Dario was very open to me saying like, this is what I want to do. But then I would give Dario big notes, and Dario would make the changes, so he would do the work. You know, near the end when we were on set, I would write a couple of lines, or I would write a little scene. I mean, a couple of scenes I wrote in the film, but they're just tiny scenes that I felt that we needed for story points, and there wasn't time to write to the writer. But Dario wrote such a lovely, rich script that I thought his language was so lovely and kind of, it felt very medieval. So I didn't want to change that and make it feel like there were two writers, because my stuff that I naturally write is more funny, and I like to write stuff that's a little bit funnier. So certain scenes, like the scene where he's having he's praying and the young guy pisses behind him, and that's the sort of scene that I thought on the day. I just said, let's do a little scene where you're praying and he says to you, I know that you're not coming to help us for a reason. So that was made up.
Yeah, we thought that what was fantastic at the end was that the twist, I mean the revelation, made us reconsider the whole movie.
Yeah, so it makes me so happy, because the epilogue, I thought the epilogue up, and I immediately called the writer. I said, look, at the end of the movie, he's become a witch finder, and he is riding around the countryside, and we think we've caught her, and then it's not her, and then we think we've caught her, and it's not her, and he's just, he's become this person that he sees her face in everyone he burns. And I thought it was a great ending, and I knew that what it would do is it would make you go, wow, everything in the movie now has to be reimagined. But everybody in the financiers were very opposed to it. They liked it, but they worried that you're going to you're turning your central character into a maniac in the end. You're turning him into I think he's a suicide bomber. I look at it as a medieval. He's been radicalized from a moderate to this guy, and in a modern day environment, he's now prepared to kill himself for his god. So I found that all very interesting, but there was no will to have it in the movie. So what was happening was, every day you kind of expect, the financiers are looking at going, we're going to have to cut the epilogue, we're going to have to cut the epilogue. And then we shot that epilogue on the last day. So we had one day, and we shot all of it in one day. From the moment he rides into the town, the torture, all of it, the burning, and it was a long day because we had one day left. And I'd saved that day knowing I needed to do my epilogue, and now everybody likes it, so it was worth it. But we shot it all in one day, yeah. Okay,
so if that epilogue couldn't have been shot,
the film doesn't work. I nearly didn't. I wouldn't have made the film. It's like we're doing that epilogue. So, but they made me film it on the last day because they didn't think the movie needed it. And I said, the movie doesn't need it, it has to be there, because if it's not there, then you walk out and you go, it ends with it had a nice end shot. The problem was I'd shot a very good end shot, which is the shot where the monk and the old monk walk towards the cross, and the cross is burning. In the foreground, you see the smoke. It feels like the end of the movie, and you think, okay, that's the final shot. And so the problem is, I shot that scene at the very beginning of the movie, so they knew they had a good end shot, which is this idea that he's gone back to Christianity. But what it is, he's gone back to Christianity, and the teachings and his experience is now going to turn him into the very dark side of Christianity instead of the good side.
Talking about the financing, I mean, did you have any problems to find money? But you told us you came on the set.
Yeah, the film was already financed, so it's wonderful when you're a director and you get sent a script and you're told that you start filming in April, and it was October. So it's lovely because you know that you've got the money. Often what happens is, I'm sure you've got a script and you're trying to get it financed and you're not sure it's going to happen, and and then you have to have so much self-belief and optimism. So that was great, but because of the big changes I wanted to do to the script, it meant that we had very little time, and we were writing right the way up to the end. But I love the idea at the end of the film. He's in hell, you know what I mean? He is in hell effectively, but he's, what he's living with is the death of his girlfriend is so dark. I love it. It makes me laugh at how dark. It makes me laugh that I've managed to pull an ending like that into a film. It's quite funny. My favourite ever ending from a movie, I remember when I first saw Seven, the movie Seven, David Fincher, and I walked out of that and I was like, amazing. It was an amazing film anyway, but that ending is so amazing that, he fucking kills her. He cuts her head off in a box, and then he does exactly what the killer wants him to do. The end. It's like, whoa. Amazing.
Talking about movies in general, what was the film? I mean, was there a film that made you say, "Well, I have to make movies in my life"?
I think there was two films. I think I can't say that there's two films. When I was a child, I've always loved films. I think I saw Star Wars when I was 7, and when I came out of that film I was shaking, and I remember I bought a film magazine about the making of Star Wars, and I was looking through all the pictures of all these people, and you could see sort of C-3PO in his suit and he was having a cigarette, and I just thought, that's someone's job. Like, my dad worked on the railways, so he does a real job. This is a job where you get paid, and I thought that must be the job for me if I could have any job. And I was from a very working class background, so you don't think that you can become a film director. And then I think when I was in my early 20s, I think I was like 22, and I saw Reservoir Dogs, and I suddenly, just in the same way that you hear people like Peter Bogdanovich talking about the way they saw Citizen Kane, that movie was a trigger for me in a way. It really made me look at that film, and you could feel the filmmaker in that film much more so than the movies of the 80s, which were, obviously they're still great movies made, but they were very big action event movies. And suddenly the 90s begin, and you get the 92, you just get this amazing fresh film that really signaled the start of the whole wave of the 90s, which I think was a great period for creatively. And it was just that movie, and then so that was a real kind of, I was already at university studying film, and it just really kind of made me realise that, wow, I'd love to be doing films like Tarantino does. And then I saw a film, and Nicholas Refn Winding's here, but when I was just having made 2 short films, I saw Pusher, which is a film, I fucking love that film. And I thought I can do that. I realised where I'd got to is that I could actually, I felt like I could make that movie. I haven't made a movie like that, but I felt that I could do that style well. I haven't made a film like that, but yeah. So that film was a big influence on me, Pusher. There's certain films where you realise you've got to a stage where you could probably make a film like that. Doesn't mean that I could go away and make 2001: A Space Odyssey. I certainly couldn't, but I think I can make Pusher, and I love that film. Yeah.
Okay. Talking about films in which the action is really important, I mean, Reservoir Dogs and Pusher, how did you approach the big action scene in Black Death?
Well, it's weird. What I learned across the 4 films is, and they all had small budgets. Severance had a big budget in one sense, but it was small. Not Severance, sorry. Triangle had a bigger budget in one sense, but it was all spent on the ship and the set, so it actually felt like a small budget. When you do action sequences, and you can do the best storyboards in the world, and you could have 85 shots in this sequence, and then you find out you have 1 day to shoot the action, and you cannot shoot 85 setups in a day. You can maybe do 15, 16, maybe 20 if you're quick. So that's 4 days. So what I learned to do in this film was I looked at the schedule and I said, how many days have we got? 3 days. So then we worked out a way of filming the fight scenes in long takes. So you would film all of the wide stuff and the mid stuff all shot continually while they're really fighting. And then what you need to do is to go in and do detail work, because what makes an action scene feel good is that it's not just you know, scrappy, loose camera work, but you need to have detail. So what I did was I would shoot a fight sequence, then I would meet the second unit director, and I would say, here are the details of the shot. By details, it would be, you might get the moment or the arm moment, and he would go and do those bits. So we shot it like a conveyor belt, where I would come and direct Sean and do the Sean's fight from all different angles, and then Sean would be moved to a separate part of the forest, and he would be doing, and the other guy would do the certain moments of Sean, you know, the stabbings, the fingers coming off the. So it worked like that, and it was actually a very good system because it makes the fight feel like it feels real, but it also feels slick when it needs to feel slick. It's a good balance, I think.
I agree.
Yeah, I know. That's how we did it, and it was because if you didn't have the detail work, it would feel scrappy. So you need both, and so that I learned that over 4 films. I wish I'd learned that in my first film; it would have been better.
What do you think? I mean, you made Severance and Creep. So, what do you think of the horror movies nowadays?
Well, every time I see a film, I always feel, is this going to be that movie that's going to shake me up again? It doesn't happen very often, and I don't think. And of the movies recently that's happened, I think I loved Haute Tension. Is that what it's called in French? Haute Tension.
From Alexandre Aja.
Yeah. I loved that film. I think that's an amazing film. I loved Wolf Creek when it came out, and recently Martyrs was just. I didn't think it was possible for me to be upset by a horror movie, and that movie upset me. I mean, there's a scene when you realise that they've got a prison downstairs, and not only down there, that fucked me up. But all those films I think are certainly Martyrs. Why I like films like Martyrs is it's actually about something else. It's an art movie. I liked Audition for the same reason. For me, Audition was a movie. It was a love story. It was about relationships. So, yeah, I think that the stuff that excites me in horror is stuff where I feel something. I feel an emotion. I find I'm less interested in, you know, the kind of torture movies and the. You know, I liked Hostel. I liked Hostel Part 2. I don't see them as torture movies. I enjoyed those films, and I think. But what I don't find interesting is, you know, I think that we should always be trying to do something new or something that makes you feel something. Because I think the more a horror movie makes you feel about your current affairs and the current environment, the better. I tell you what I did like recently. I said I didn't like, I loved, and then I didn't like, and then I loved was. Enter the Void. See, that for me is like a horror movie. I think the first 2/3 of that film is unbelievably good, I think. And I can't comment on how he should re-edit his film or if he should, because they're talking about having a shorter version. That's for him to know. It's his film, but I love his films. I loved I Stand Alone. I love Irreversible, and I love this film, but the last act was trying, I would say.
Did you see it?
I saw it here, yeah, and I honestly... 2/3 of the way through, I was just speechless at how good I thought the film was, and then I thought the last act was just too long, and it kind of diffused what I'd liked about the film.
Yeah, a lot of people think that.
Yeah, it undid it in a way, and maybe that's what he wanted. But I don't think any director wants to undo something that's good. I think he wants it to be good, so shorten it a bit, I think.
Do you have any projects right now?
Yeah, I'm working on a film, like a film noir, which is going to be a movie. Yeah, it's like a road movie, film noir, which has got kind of horror, fantasy, not fantasy, but horror elements to it. So about a murder, and it's dark. I'm doing that. I'm also working on a big-ish budget movie, which I don't want to say too much about because other people do, but a kind of sci-fi film. So I want to try and get a bigger time to do a bigger movie in a way. Not because I want more money in the budget, but I just want more time to do it. So the films I think I've done have had a certain success, and they've all had very tight schedules, and I just would love to make a movie with 12 weeks instead of 6. It would be quite nice.
Yeah. Well, do you have any question?
Okay. Sur Agora, la religion.
Oh yes, so last question. Did you see Agora from Alejandro?
No, I didn't. It's weird because that film, is it good?
Yes, it's good.
It's weird. It came out in England. It cost a lot of money, that film, didn't it? It was a big budget and it didn't do very well.
It's a big peplum.
Yeah, I need to see it. I haven't seen it. Is it good?
Because
because this is a film where, like in Black Death, they show Christian religion in a very dark way, in a very violent way, and how do you deal to show this today, because this is a forgotten part of the Christian religion?
Yeah, well, it's weird. I think why I wanted to show the fundamentalist aspects of Christian religion is because obviously when you think of fundamentalism you're thinking of Islam now, and it's become what we all need to remember is that we've all had history like that, and also fundamentalism still exists even today in Christian. There's still Christian fundamentalism. There's still, even in America, you still get the beliefs that that the world wasn't invented, that it was made in 7 days, and that the dinosaurs were not 50 million years long. You sort of go, so you hear all these histories that are being retold, and I think that what I try to do is to say, look, we all need to look at our own faith before we start judging others, and the creation of fear is, as you see in this film, is often unsubstantial. We always try to say someone is evil or someone has been brainwashed, and I think those are reductive. Those terms are silly, because you can do an evil thing but doesn't mean you're evil, doesn't mean you're possessed by the devil. So I tried to show that in this film, that by looking at history we can actually look at today and say, here's how someone could be radicalized. Here's how, in this story, a young moderate monk becomes this guy who's crazy at the end. So, yeah, is that the answer to the question?
Yes.
Okay.
Thank you very much.
No worries.
Thanks again for
no worries. Yeah. I also wanted, if you're still on, one of the things is that I try to be careful, is that Christianity is, I didn't want it to feel blasphemous, the film, because the film isn't blasphemous. It just shows, here's a faith, a beautiful faith, and here's the way it can be wrongly corrupted. And I think that's true of all religions. The faith itself is peaceful and beautiful, and I think it's the way it's exploited that makes it dark. So.
Yeah.
Thanks again.
No worries.